In today's video, we are taking a look at the Yamaha PSR-EW300. I'm going to break it apart. It's just a matter of taking apart a couple of screws, and we're going to give it a cleaning. And it's because some of the keys don't strike right, it feels as though there's something hard under there. I'm going to redo the felt. Hopefully this video can give you a good overview about how to crack one of these open and do some service work to it. No special tools required, pretty much just a screwdriver. We have some towels spread out to protect it, and we're going to work upside down. First, take a look at this deep groove right in the center. There are 7 screws just like this. They're the longer screws of the two we'll be taking out, and they're inside of these ovals. 3 on each half and 1 in the center. Next, there are 11 of these short screws to take out. 2 of them will be in this gutter, 1 on each end. Next, we have this one, this one, this one, and this one, the 4 in the corner. And then along the top edge, down in these slots, you'll have an additional 5. Once you've removed the 7 long screws and the 11 short screws, put them all in an applesauce container and put them away. Later, when we're taking screws out for the keys, we'll want to put those in a separate thing so that we don't get them all mixed up. So we're done with these for now. Now the case can be split apart. We're going to open it up like a book, pretending like this top part is a hinge. We want to keep this close together as we open it up because there's a bunch of flat cables inside that are all connected. We don't want the two halves to become too far apart right here at this point. Like I said, pretend this is a hinge.
Before we go any further, I want you to stop and consider something. The single most important thing that you can keep in mind when you're fixing something. Whether that thing is mechanical, electrical, or biological, the number one thing that you can do to improve your chances of fixing the thing you're trying to fix is to clean. Clean everything that you can. It doesn't cost you anything except a little bit of time. Once I had this keyboard split open, the first thing that I did was use compressed air to get all of the dust bunnies out. After a good solid cleaning, then I started to remove the keys. More on how to do that in just a moment.
If you notice, underneath the keys here, there's this white strip, and this is a piece of felt. Listen really carefully and look up close. Normally, when the key is depressed, the bottom of it makes contact with this felt here, and the felt is soft, and so it cushions it. Listen. But somebody spilled something here. I don't know if it's soda pop or a cup of urine, but listen. So this set of keys here was striking something hard, and so that's why I'm inside of this machine. Thus, my plan is to remove this felt and clean it and reinstall it. Don't be overwhelmed. It looks complicated, but it's really not that bad. On the end of around each octave, that is right here and right here, on either side, there's a screw. So remove these 2 screws and the entire set will pop out. How you do it? First, look over here and there are a pair of clips. There's one here and one here, and they're really easy. You can depress them with your fingers. It's kind of self-explanatory when you see it up close. And then pick up like this, and the set of keys will drop down like this, enabling this foot here to come out from underneath, and you can take the whole set away. Each of these sets breaks into 3 distinct parts. and it's a lot easier to clean them while they're in pieces. Just be careful. They're not that fragile though. Reassembly goes as follows. This one, then this one. They kind of snap together. And then the black keys last. Now that we have it all exposed, it's a somewhat familiar technology. This works exactly like an old Nintendo does. The buttons on your Xbox controller work the same way. We have this silicone thing that when you depress it, it makes a connection on the back side. You'll notice that there are these two little dark colored pads. And what they do is they'll press against the circuit board here and close the gap in between them with a conductor. This pad is conductive. And so when the circuit is closed, it allows the signal to pass. Note that each of the keys has two, a high and a low. And so in that way, when the key is partially depressed, it sends one signal, and when it's depressed the whole way, it sends a whole lot of signal. It sends two signals. That way the key can act as though it's variable. These little button pads just fit into the holes here. They're indexed, so you can't really mess it up. If your ones way out here in the center are more worn out than the ones towards the outside, you might want to rotate them. If you switch them around, then you can more evenly distribute wear over time. But just as an old Nintendo controller can last for 40 years, these little silicone buttons have a million presses in them before they wear out. Of course, I have to advise you to do the following only at your own risk. This is 90% isopropyl alcohol. And what we can do with this is clean the conductive areas on the board there. And we can clean these pads too if we want, depending on how dirty yours is. Make sure it's nice and dry. And when you put it all back together, these keys should be super responsive. This felt looks like it's being held in place by some type of spray glue or a contact cement, but it peels up rather easily, and it's not going to be damaged, I don't think. Oh. Yuck. All right, I'll be back once I find a way to get this clean. It worked pretty well. I was able to get the hard spot out entirely. I soaked the hard part in vinegar and loosened it by hand and ran it under scalding hot water. And then I hung it like so, let it drip dry, and used the air compressor to fluff it back up and work the remaining water out. All things considered, it seems as though this will work fine, but I'm still going to make it extra luxurious by adding one more layer of felt. This is a rayon wool combination. You could use craft felt if that's what you have, but this stuff will be a little more resilient. Cutting felt can be an art, and they have a tool for that, but I have a trick for that in case you don't have the tool. Masking tape. Now we can draw a pencil line right on the masking tape. And now we simply cut down the line with some cutting shears or some sharp scissors. Let's leave the masking tape on there for now, and it will keep any spray glue off of the felt on the top side. We can spray both of them at the same time. First, let's put the white one right back where it came from. Just a little bit of pressure sticks it in place. What's cool about what we're doing here is that layer by layer, we can build up a felt pad that's as thick as we want it to be. Your other option is to go buy a replacement part that will be way too expensive. The tape keeps it from stretching too as we place it. And then once it's where we want it to be, we just peel it away. Now we start returning the sets of keys in exactly the opposite way that we took them off. The foot goes underneath first. Wiggle it forward. Look for the two snaps. Press down on each of them. And now the two screws. Before we look at the felt, a small but important point. These screws I put some mineral oil on. Or if you don't have mineral oil, just some household oil. It's very important when you're putting a metal screw into a plastic part that you put a little bit of oil on it. And why you do this, it's so that the friction can be reduced enough that you can really feel. And this way you won't over tighten your screws. You'll also be way less likely to strip the screws out, or rather strip the plastic out that the screws are going into. Like I said, it's all about feeling, and with the oil, it's just a lot more apparent when you should stop. And by the way, there's another small detail we have to pay attention to. Notice that these are keyed. That is, they have a male and a female. So you have to be sure that you fit those in as we go. It's very tiny. Our nice new felt made it kind of hard to see down there, but you can look with your ears. That's quite an improvement. Both the first and the last group, the ones on the end, are slightly different than the others, but it's not a very difficult puzzle. And one last tip for assembling these, if you're having trouble getting one in because it's tight at the joint, you might want to loosen up a few of your screws on the way back. It might be best if you just put all the screws in at the end.
Let's be very careful not to pinch any of the flat cables. We're too late in the game to ruin anything at this point. Make a dry run, make sure everything's lined up, and when it's right, close it like a book.
During reassembly, these 7 long screws are a little problematic because it feels as though they're screwing to something that's loose. If it gives you any trouble, just stop if one doesn't want to go in, tighten the others, and then return to that one. They'll all gradually start to tighten up as you go. Success one way or another. My playing isn't important. The fact that somebody could, in theory, play, that's the important part. See you later.